Welcome to Stargate SG-1 for the first time, still not a Star Trek podcast. My name is Jeff Akin, and I'm watching Stargate SG-1 for the first time.
And I'm Brent Allen, and I'm also watching Stargate SG-1 for the first time, looking for messages. But this is my 47th time through the series. But those messages I said I'm looking for, you know, those good sci-fi messages that hold up a mirror to society, give us hope that things can be better in the future, or maybe just teach us how to be better human beings to one another.
Wouldn't that be nice? Speaking of being better human beings, we're about to celebrate in the world of Stargate. This is one of my favorite holidays, is Halloween. We're watching Spirits today, and my prediction is that this is going to be like a Haunted Planet Halloween-themed episode, because my assumption is this is coming out around Halloween. But Brent, you're about to lay on me when the release date was and any other cool little factoids about this, so tell us about Spirits.
Yeah, Jeff, this episode aired like almost a week exactly prior to Halloween, which is prime time. No, but that's prime time for airing Halloween stuff, because you know what actually happens on Halloween? I'm not at home watching TV. I'm out doing my thing.
Candy.
So it's that season. So perfect timing for a Halloween episode. I'm not saying anything else more about this episode right now. We'll have to save all the rest of it for after you watch this thing.
Wow.
So with that, it is time for us to go watch the episode, Jeff. Hey, if you folks out there are joining us for the very first time, welcome. You guys are amazing. Jeff and I are going to go watch this episode for the first time. And hey, if you'd like to see the full unedited video, you can head over to Patreon, our Patreon page, and check the link down below for the proper link to that.
If you're listening to this on an audio podcast, you're about to gate into the future. We're going to watch the episode, and then we're going to come back here in just a minute or so, and we're going to have a chance for me to share my for the first time reaction to the episode, and then Brent's going to share any of the sci-fi messages that he may or may not have found. Brent, let's kick it off. Spirits.
Chevron 7 locked.
All right, Jeff, whenever you're ready, go, buddy. We have just watched Spirits.
I'm so disappointed this was not a Halloween show at all. That's not true. That's not true. Part of Halloween, right, is dressing up, playing a character or whatever. We got some shapeshifters in this one.
Sure.
I was so afraid as this episode was starting to open up and it became apparent that we were going to be looking at a Native American indigenous culture, and kind of diving into that. Like, TV does not do a very good job with Native Americans, just in general. And I was really concerned that, like, oh my gosh, this is going to be one of the Chakotay Akuchimoya episodes. And no, thank you. Totally was not that at all. This was great. I think, like, you're going to talk more in this one than I am. I'm just going to say that now. I believe this episode is just overflowing with messages. So I'm going to just get to the point on things. We got this new thing called trinium or key that 100 times stronger and lighter than steel. So super awesome. We met these spirits that are shapeshifters that expelled the Gould. It's a cool story. The thing that I kind of dove into that they didn't was how they kind of, like, they got rid of the Gould, but then they kind of became the Gould, but just in a more benevolent version of them. There's the whole, the conquerors tend to become what they conquered, sort of a thing to that.
Can I add to that though? They in becoming the Gould, they took the names of the spirits of the Salish people, or the Salish people named them, however you want to look at that. They were not going to reveal themselves to the Salish people
Ever.
because they were scared that they would come to fear them, and then that would drive wedges and that would do all that. But so they're literally lying to them the whole time, which is not necessarily the most awful thing, I think, in this particular situation, but still, they weren't trying to rule. They were definitely trying to coexist. They were trying to protect, as you said, the benevolent piece, but they were never trying to make advancements and forward their relationships either.
Exactly. Keep that distance, sort of a thing. It makes me wonder what they do, like, what kind of life are they living? It's not important. I mean, there were quite a few of them, number of spirits and things. I was going to talk about, like, one of the big things I wanted to dive into, but I got to say, Tanani might be my favorite guest character of all time.
Not just as a Native American on any show. You're talking about just everywhere?
Stargate for sure, maybe overall.
Okay.
What a great character. Not only was the acting was great, just kind of a thing, showed up the way he needed to show up all the time. But like we talked about it during the episode, he just had this simplicity to him that was actually just a really deep well of wisdom and just calling things as they are. He was cool. He was honest. I hope that we get to see him again. We're not gonna. It seems like they're gonna destroy their gate.
He makes you want to go live with his people.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, hey, that's a cool, like, they don't have all this cool flashy technology and stuff, but there's something so appealing about that mindset and that way of life that you're like, you know what? I don't need TVs and all this other stuff. I'm gonna go hang out with these people for a while.
The scene that really brought that to a head for me was when, so they wanted to mine this trinium using blast caps and, kind of going that way. They're like, that's destructive. It's wasteful. They have a process where basically it comes down the mountain, it goes through the river, it does all that stuff, natural processing, and it takes a ton of time to get done. But what comes out from that is sufficient for them. So Sam, in her first diplomatic job, which she did not do a very good job in, thank goodness Daniel was on the team, but she's like, no, we have better ways. We can do this better. Come with us and we'll show you. And they show him. And I love this so much. He's not mad. He's not attacking. He's not offended. He just states a fact. He's like, this is just as wasteful and destructive as the other thing. Like, I don't get it. And then he says, our way is the best way. Period. Just, this is a statement of fact. There's no opinion here. It's best. And I loved it because it wasn't like a blind faith. Like, we do it this way, so it's the best way. Behind that was, this is natural. It comes down, we're not destroying anything. We are reaping, the benefits, the harvest of the water and the land and the mountain. And it's enough for us. What really just hit me the wrong way in this was the NID and Hammond going along with the NID and the Pentagon, where prior to this episode, we didn't even know trinium was a thing. So there is 0 trinium coming into Earth.
Right.
Now, all of a sudden out of nowhere, hey, we need metric tons of this stuff because the Gould, they might be coming back. Maybe. And if they do, this stuff might, maybe be able to give us an edge in battle. Okay, so you want to go from 0 to 100, and Tsunani's people are offering you to go from 0 to 20. I feel like 20 is a lot better than 0.
Yeah.
And it makes me really think about performance mindsets and like an abundance versus scarcity mindset. And an abundance mindset, which Tsunani has, is land provides. We're good. And I think what that did for them also was like they were able to hold on to their culture while they still grew technologically because they didn't destroy the land to get the stuff. They took what came. Contrasted to the NID and the Pentagon with a scarcity mindset of, oh, this is on one planet and it's one thing, and we believe this is the game changer for us. So we're going to lie to these people. We're going to strip their planet. And I kept waiting to hear him say, we'll just go and genocide them. Like, we'll just go kill them. We can do that. We have our staff weapons and stuff. We'll just kill them. Take the stuff.
They would if they tried to stop them.
That would have been the thing they needed. So it was disappointing, not surprising from what we've seen of the NID, but it was a really big thing of just like, isn't some better than none?
Yeah.
I enjoyed this episode a lot, and a lot more than I thought I was when I came in, and a lot more like as it was coming up. I was really nervous, but this was a good one. I'm looking forward to ranking it. But now it's your turn, Brent. I said that this is an overflowing episode of messages. Distill it down. Give us the good stuff.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Before we gate into the rest of this episode, did you know you're missing most of the content from this podcast? Stargate SG-1 for the first time has an active and exciting Patreon that you can join right now by clicking the link in the show notes. Not only will you get access to the full, unedited podcast and reaction videos, you'll also be able to join a growing, vibrant, maybe even an intergalactic community. Subscribers even get access to all of our content from Babylon 5 for the first time. Don't miss out on this content and the amazing people. Just click the link in the show notes. Tilk thinks you should do it right now.
Indeed.
Just to I want to work backwards on the things you said. One, I also really like this episode. I've always liked this episode. It's a simple episode to me. It's a great episode. This is an episode I can put on at any time. If I just, whatever, I need an episode of Stargate. Oh yeah, Spirits, that's a great one. Let's throw that one on. I can watch it anytime. I also love Tanane. I love his people. Like, you just kind of want to go live with them. I will say this. I did check. Zales is a real god of the Salish people.
Really? Okay.
But not much. I really had a hard time finding out much about him and Takaya and the others. There's really not a lot, because everything that you Google about Zales goes back to the Stargate episode.
Oh, really?
And just tells you what you get out of this episode. So there's very little, but there are definitely totem poles and various things up in that area that feature Zales as a raven who is a benevolent caretaker of his people.
That's cool.
But it seems like he's really the Zales, I hesitate to say myth, but the Zales mythology is very mixed in with a lot of others, if that makes sense. Like, but it sort of seems to be like the progenitor of a lot of it.
It does.
Anyway, Jeff, this is the Nox all over again. This is the Nox part 2. SG-1 goes out. They meet a people that are far more simple than they are, or at least it seems that way. And SG-1 just can't see past their own noses. Even when Daniel kind of seems like he's coming around when they're out in the forest, and he's like, oh, is that Zales? Hey, Zales, let me have a talk with you. Let me have a talk with you. Let me have a talk with you. And then he turns around and goes, oh, Takaya, did you hear? He said we can have our friends back. So go get our friend. Like, it's like he was doing so good until that moment right there. And he just became patronizing, And I was like, ugh. That said, I completely understand where SG-1's coming from in this particular episode. You don't really believe that it's spirits. We know that no, quote unquote, that stuff doesn't really exist, and they need to get their friends, and they don't really, like, come on, like, let's be adults. Let's be grownups about this whole thing. Now, that being said, there is a great skill in being able to know that you know something, but be humble enough to think that you might not know everything and to be open to what you don't know. And to that, I'm going to point to a seeming video my high school physics teacher showed.
Okay.
Chris Webb was the name of the teacher. Mr. Webb, if you are watching, or if anybody else had Mr. Webb at Lafayette High School in Lexington, Kentucky, you showed this video and it so impacted me. It has impacted every area of my parenting and how I deal with and interact with kids to this day. It's like, it just sticks in my brain. In this, it's like a world-class physicist, world-class scientist who is talking with kids. I want to say they were talking about frisbees and how frisbees fly. I could be wrong. Let's just say that that's what they were talking about.
Fair.
And here's the scientist who knows how frisbees work. Frisbees are curved. They create, they do something with the thing, creates lift as they're spinning. But he asked like, and these are young kids, 4 or 5-year-old kids. So how do you think it flies? And they're just talking about all this, off the wall, really super cute kind of stuff. And the scientist just sat there, instead of correcting them or placating, oh yeah, that's so sweet, and kind of laughing at them, he went, huh, maybe I don't know. Maybe it's not how I think.
Huh.
You could be like he legitimately was like, maybe it is that.
It's like, that's interesting. Tell me more. Let's try this.
Yeah. What do you think? Cool. Maybe I am wrong. Now, I'm pretty sure I know what's what, but maybe I'm wrong. The ability to be wrong and not have to be right, even though you are, is a tremendous skill, not just when dealing with kids. Because let's face it, and if there's one knock I could give about how this episode portrayed Tanani, especially, but also Tanani's people, is they really did come off rather childlike. But I didn't find it offensive. It was a simplistic just way of how they believed, and actually turns out they were right. There really are these quote unquote spirits named Zales that really do reflect, and he's hearing the raven and somehow understanding what he's saying, and I heard this and I heard that, and nope, I just want to go, and our way is better. He's like, I'm convinced that our way is best. We're not going to do this for you. He's like, listen, there's no reason they would have to harm you unless you're trying to harm us. Are you trying to harm us, Jack?
Puts it out there. I love that.
Yeah. Like, oh, so good. It was so good. So I think that was a huge piece, a huge message. Is it? You don't have to know everything. You perhaps you don't actually know it out there. You might need to go learn. And we talked about it in the episode for those audio people. I'll rehash it here just a little bit. When Zales is on the bed and Jack first goes, Tanani, that's your guy, Zales. And he goes, doesn't look like him. And then Tanani stops and he goes, is that you, Zales? And he doesn't answer. And he turns around and goes, yeah, if that was Zales, he would have answered. Like, it's a real simple, like he was skeptical, but maybe that is Zales. And when they met later on in the episode, and he's like, this is your God, this is your spirit, Zales. And Tanani was like, okay, cool, no problem. You may view us in whichever form pleases you boast. Well,
I loved that so much. It's like, hey, we want to be whatever, so we'll cater to what you want. And he's just like, yeah, no, just you do you, man. Like, be you.
We like you. We're here for you, not because of anyway. So another message I found in here, it's the Fern Gully message.
Yep.
The Avatar message. It's the message that you get in every Native American based episode of sci-fi and television that's out there. Which is, modern culture is wasteful and destructive and not in tune with nature and the spirits and all of that. But also, we got a really good look at, Jeff. And this isn't necessarily a mirror to society. Maybe it is a mirror to society. Certainly it's a mirror to history of what really happened.
Uh-huh.
It shows the evilness of the American government. And I'm going to point a finger at my own people and my own government. It shows the evilness that we have perpetrated against the Native Americans over the course of history. One which we have been consistently guilty of over the centuries. It's gross. It's disgusting. It's evil. I don't know that it means everybody just packs up and goes back to where our ancestors came from and we hand things. I think we're past that at this point, but it is something that we never ever need to do again. And we need to make whatever kind of amends for that we can, and live in harmony here. Because we're all here now. I think of what Delin said in Babylon 5, like, yeah, you go back and forth, but how many times? Like, at some point, where is it? Anyway, but I'm not going to shy away from the horrendousness at which the American government has perpetrated against the Native American people, specifically of not keeping to their own agreements. And to sit back and go, oh, well, you say we can't have this thing we want. Well, we're just going to go take it anyway. Screw you. Because and to your exactly what you were just talking earlier about the NID, because it wasn't just the NID. It was the Pentagon and here's Hammond following orders. He's a good soldier. And you're ordered to do this. And Jack, I loved that this episode called it out, because one of the things we've talked about here in Stargate is sometimes they present an issue and then they do nothing with it. They just move on.
Mm-hmm.
In this episode, they presented an issue and they explored it a little bit and they called it out for the bullshit that it is. And Jack spoke it all into existence. He did. And I wish I had the exact quote. I didn't have time to write it all down, but he just said, maybe we're learning from history here, General. You can't do this. And the whole team was like, yeah, we're sick at our stomach over this. We cannot go behind these people's backs and just do this. That's not okay. They have rights to their thing, and we cannot. And if we go violate that, Jeff, I mean, that's the Star Trek piece.
Exactly.
If we go violate their rights that we so fight for our own, that just makes us hypocrites, because we want it, because we believe in this manifest destiny that we're supposed to own all of this land, or we need to own and control all this land. So, hey, all you Native people here, get out, and we're going to force you out onto the Trail of Tears. Awful, awful. If you don't know what the Trail of Tears is, whether you're an American or not an American, look it up, read about it. It is heart-wrenching.
I'm going to take that a step further. And even if you know what it is, I want you, when this is done, to look it up and read about it. That's a thing that happened that we can never forget. Can never forget that happened.
One more thing. Here's the weird thing about all this. And you brought this up too, Jeff. The spirits, in many ways, were just as bad as the humans. They could also stand to learn from Tanani and his people.
Yes.
They were just as judgmental, just as dismissive, just as powered up. If you don't do what we wanted you to do, we're just going to destroy you. We don't care. And they were just as insistent upon their own way.
Yeah, they were going to blow the base up.
They too did not seek to understand, did not seek coalition, did not seek to honor and respect the rights of others. Now, they were doing it under the guise of protecting Tonani and his people, but still, you became that which you're now fighting against. So, and let's just be clear, these weren't the actual spirits themselves. These were aliens that took on the identities of these spirits of the Salish people. All right. So two things to learn from here. One, I loved this line that was spoken by one of the elders in the village. He said, "Why can you not be content with the key that the spirits send down the river?"
There it is.
So why can you, like, that was the question that they threw out there, and Hammond certainly couldn't. His answer was, there's a little bit, it's never going to be enough for the industrial purposes we're wanting to do. Well, why can't you be content with it? Then you can't do those industrial things you want to do.
And you weren't going to do them before anyway. Like, it's
yeah. Be content. Why can't you just be content? Hey, maybe you make friends with these people. You go ask the spirits to send more key, because guess what? Those spirits, they fought the Gould. They probably could be really good friends of you who are fighting the Gould. Maybe they could bring a whole lot more key down the mountain, but you didn't stop and listen. You just had to go through it with your plan the whole way. The other one is this. You know what the solution was to the whole problem? To fess up.
Yeah.
To confess. To admit what you did. To stop deceiving. Jack's line. Tonani, it's time for the truth. And when you can speak the truth, when you can let it out, not only the truth from him and his people and what they were going to do. Yeah, this is exactly what we were going to do to you. That's awful. Hey, it's time for the truth about your alien friends over here too.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, oh, but they're not going to accept it. It's going to disrupt. It's going to whatever. And it's like, dude, trust them. In the end, that deception, even though they got to a place of truth, caused them, by them, I mean Earth, to be shut off from a potential friend, because they're going to go back through that gate. They're going to bury their Stargate. We do not get to go follow up with them. We do not get to be their friends.
Well, and they lost the key entirely, so
that's the other side of it. Instead of being content with what they could have gotten from Zales, because as you said, the Salish people were willing to share. Perhaps Zales and them would have been eager and willing to share as well. But because they had to go behind their back and do it the dirty way, they lost everything. They lost a friendship. They lost an ally. They lost people who have already battled and defeated the Gould.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
And you lost access to this trinium that they might possibly have really given you a lot more than you ever thought, because you thought that you just knew it and you didn't stop to think that maybe there's something here going on that you don't understand. This is now the second time they've done this, Jeff.
Yep.
This happened first with the Nox, and they're like, yep, you're not coming back through here again. We're fine. They've now done it with the Salish people. Will the Earth people ever learn that just because you go to another planet and the people seem to be less developed than you does not mean that you just know better?
We've learned that one of the biggest weakness, if not the biggest weakness of the Gould, is their arrogance, their hubris. Is that maybe humans from Earth as well? Something to think about.
See, every time you point one finger, you got three more pointing back at you. Jeff, I don't know that I can boil this down to a single message, because I don't think there is one single message. It's all through there. There's so many that are in there. You cannot do an episode like this without having been completely intentional what you're trying to do. Jeff, is there any way I could give this less than a 5 chevron?
There is a way you could do that, but it would involve you no longer being attached to this show. So, you always have a choice. There's always a choice.
Yeah. So, this is a 5 chevron episode to me, Jeff. It may not be the most banger, pew, pew, pew stylistic. I mean, listen, the makeup looked pretty good, but it also is real, like,
for late 90s sci-fi, it was top notch, but it was still late 90s sci-fi.
Listen, anytime you have to say for that time period, it means it looks awful and it's dated. So, because you could still see the human nose that's underneath it, that they had the prosthetics and everything on, and it just didn't look great. It's not pleasing to look at by any stretch of the imagination, and maybe that was part of the point. So Jeff, 5 chevrons, that's my rating. You get to rank it. Where does this go in the season. We are creating the SG1 season 2 definitive 100% completely accurate, immutable ranking. Jeff, the top 5 right now remains Serpent's Grasp and Serpent's Lair, the two-parter that carried over. Number 2 was Secrets. Number 3, Thor's Chariot. Number 4, the Tok'ra, parts 1 and 2. And number 5, In the Line of Duty. Jeff, where do you place this episode? Spirits.
Duty.
We're 13 years old. I got a feeling In the Line of Duty is going to be knocked out of the top 5 this week.
Well,
maybe not.
100%. This is our new number 4 episode. But no, I was thinking about it because I was bouncing between like 4 or 5 right in there, and the question I asked myself is, which one would I rather sit down and watch? And I had issues with the Tok'ra, you know, and I wasn't quiet about those. I don't have issues with this one. And like you said, it's not huge. This isn't the one, but like this was a fun, challenging.
But sometimes when it means something to you, oh gosh, you eat it up. TKO, looking at you.
Exactly. Cold Lazarus for me, right? Was another one.
Oh yeah.
And this one was fun, but it had meat to it also. And to be able to put those things together, that's masterful. This was a great episode. So new number 4.
All right, Jeff. Well, that is going to do it for Spirits. Would you like to know what we're watching next week?
Yeah.
Just like last time, you're going to catch it right off the title. Touchstone. Would you care to venture a guess what the episode Touchstone is all about?
Touchstone Pictures proudly presents.
Company owned by Disney, by the way.
Touchstone in my world is like, it's like metrics, you know, so like we measure performance or whatever, and our goal that we're working towards is our touchstone. Like, you know, hey, are we meeting this or not? It's also, a touchstone is a thing that's used to measure the quality of gold.
Is it really?
I think so. They mentioned the NID in this episode a little bit. What I'm thinking about is we still have Senator Kinsey out there going after chasing his $7 billion or whatever. I think what he's going to start doing is putting performance metrics in place, right? So you have to get this many pieces of tech. You have to go on this many missions, you know, sort of a thing. Really add a ton of bureaucracy to everything that's going on. And so ultimately this is going to be an Office Space episode where Jack and crew are like, they're going to come in and put all this stuff in place. And then SG1's job is going to be to show how this is stupid and we know what we're doing. And it's going to basically be Kinsey NID versus SGC SG1 kind of an episode.
All right. Well, we will see next time right here on Stargate SG1 for the first time. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you get your podcast, wherever you get your videos. Leave us a rating and review no matter where you are. If you get a chance to do that, please be sure to leave us a rating and review. And more than anything else, please be sure to share this show with someone that you know who loves SG1 or somebody who's getting into it for the first time. That being said, we're going to get out of here for now. So thank you once again for joining us. Until next time, folks, we're getting out of here.
Hey, Brent.
Hey, Jeff.
Will you smell this really quick?
Oh, for crying out loud.